website's now generating a significant proportion of their traffic via mobile, it's really, really important that we're thinking mobile first. Google has been doing it for years. Google has been prioritizing the mobile index over the desktop index. So really, really important that we're thinking in the same way. Now, the first point we'll start with, an obvious one, is about keeping calls to action and buttons sufficiently large, right? We need to remember that a thumb is a lot bigger than the corner of a mouse cursor. Some thumbs are particularly hefty, so we need to ensure that we're blowing up our buttons and our calls to action to a sufficient size. Secondly, and closely related to that, is the copy itself. So this again needs to be big enough so that people, even people with maybe not great eyesight, can read it on small screens. Now the trouble is that as we blow up this copy, we can end up with paragraph after paragraph of text, which again makes for a bad user experience. And this is where tabulation comes in. So we need to ensure that we're taking that kind of excess content and we're sticking it behind tabs so that people can easily access it if they want that extra bit of detail, but it's not immediately visible, so it doesn't clutter up that first user experience when the person lands on the page. And this is becoming increasingly common. There was a time where Google wouldn't really give too much value to that content that was tabulated, but now it recognizes that that's so fundamental to good mobile UX that it's as important as any other content on that page. The next point is around simplicity. So I'd suggest conducting on your website or on your demo website what we'd call the thumb test. So can you navigate from the beginning to the end of that journey using nothing but your thumb, because that is how people want to navigate on their mobile phone. And if you dislocate your thumb or if you have a very awkward, painful experience, well, you just need to remind yourself that your customers are also going to have that very awkward, painful experience. So really, really important that you review that process until it's kind of sufficiently streamlined and simple. Number 4 then is around auto-populating data. Now this is important on lots of different websites, particularly e-commerce sites, but that becomes even more true when people are trying to navigate it on a mobile. It's a real pain on a mobile phone having to populate lots of different data fields. So the more that you can auto-populate that information for the user, the better. And finally, really simple on this, just make sure the telephone number is clickable. There's no better way to infuriate a user than by presenting them with a telephone number that's actually an image, and then they have to try and memorize it, go out of the browser, type it in, and they get some digits wrong and they start all over again. So just make sure it's always clickable. These principles we've covered should be pretty much par for the course for any good website designer. As I mentioned at the start, Google went mobile first about 3 or 4 years ago, so it's time that you did the same. See you next time.